Hey everyone, welcome back to Newfound Happy Hour. My name is Sarah, and if you haven't been listening, this podcast is all about sharing experiences and giving big sister advice or best friend advice, which is very fitting for this episode because my guest is my best friend, and she's actually the first guest I had when I started this podcast about 2 years ago. So I'd encourage everyone to go back and listen to the first episode with her and every episode since, actually, because we just hit 25 episodes of this podcast, which is super exciting. So this is part 2 of this episode. We're continuing our conversation about being a new mom, and Sarah talks about her biggest surprises with motherhood. And I just want to say, I think it's so helpful to talk about fears and experiences, especially when it comes to being a parent and postpartum and mental health and the things that you may go through. Even if you don't have a more emotional experience, it's definitely something that I think all moms think about or fear, or maybe they don't and they're surprised when it happens. So shout out to anyone who talks about it and makes this a normal conversation to keep normalizing it because it is so common. So I just want to give a shout out to Sarah there for talking about that. And we talk about relationships too as a new mom. And on the other side of it, how it can feel when you're the childless friend, like in my situation. 2 of my best friends were pregnant within 3 months of each other. And when you're not in the same phase of life, you can kind of question the decisions that you're making. But I'm pretty confident in my own life phase at this point, which is good on my end, but also credit to my friends for never making me feel judged or pressured or made to feel like my life and issues and priorities are any less important. It sounds ridiculous to say. It's not like I thought that was going to happen. And like Sarah says, like we're pretty solidified in our friendship at this point, but it does happen to some people. And I guess the point I'm trying to make is that you don't have to fear losing people who are your true friends because you might be in different life stages. It can be cool to experience it at different times, actually, and kind of show up for your friend with a different perspective. I like the point she makes, too, of how sometimes your childless friends can actually be a support because we might have more time to come and hang out or help when you might need a pick-me-up or things like that. So, yeah, it was actually really nice listening back to this conversation, and I hope that it gives comfort to anyone who might be a new mom or a pregnant mom. And yeah, we talk about all this and more. So here is the rest of our conversation. Oh, yeah. So like after all that is said and done, what was like, I know you were still asking your mom for advice and other people for advice, but what was like, was there still something that you were like, oh man, no one told me about this? Or like, was there something that was a surprise?
I think I was the most surprised at how okay like emotionally I felt. I thought I was going to be off my rocker, but I wasn't. And I think that was the biggest surprise for me. Um, and I think it definitely helps that, I had such supportive people, but
Mhm.
you can't control your hormones. So, I was definitely cranky the first night we came home, and I still feel bad about it. But I pretty much hadn't slept the
Yeah.
whole time I was in the hospital, and I got home Tuesday night, and I had been in the hospital since Saturday.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I think that was like my biggest surprise was how actually I don't know if that's true. Landon might listen to this and totally not agree that I wasn't off my rocker. But I felt better than I had anticipated.
Right.
I don't know what the biggest surprise was. I don't know if I can answer that because I really don't know.
Well, that's good.
Oh no, I'll tell you. I'll tell you actually. My biggest surprise was how much my legs hurt after I gave birth.
Okay.
And Landon said to me, he's like, "Oh, did you do your stretches today?" Like almost every day of my pregnancy. Like, you don't. you don't want to be doing your stretches when you're pregnant. You just
Mhm.
want to eat and sleep like a baby.
Right.
And yeah, I'm like I'm very not flexible. So the way that my legs had to be positioned, I that was one of the hardest parts about healing too. Like I could barely walk.
Hmm.
So do your stretches, everybody.
Yeah, true. Mom said she was afraid of birth, and so she was like power walking every day to like, I guess, try and be like ready. So yeah, that makes sense. And you said like you were nervous about like, I guess, how your life would change. And coming from like the side of a friend who is not going through the same thing, especially once Leslie was pregnant too. Like I sat down and I was like, oh, should I get knocked up now? Like what is happening? Because it's a life adjustment. Like it really is a phase of our lives that are over because priorities are different as they should be.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think like on my side, like that was a fear too. But now that it's happened, I'm like, oh, we're not like that. Like you're not just gonna suddenly drop me because we're not in the same life stage. Like I think that's a fear, especially I see child-free TikTok a lot. Yeah, and there's always people talking about how like their friends drop them when they have kids or like vice versa, like childless friends kind of stop talking to them. And I just don't see that happening. And I don't think it's even something that like we have to put in effort. I just think that's not going to happen.
No, of course not. And I think that we're also, you know, well, especially our friendship is very solidified and isn't
Mm,
going anywhere. I think that there's some, you become closer with some people maybe because they have kids because like there's that part where you can talk about, but it doesn't mean you're closer with them than you are with your original besties, you know? And like, I mean, I still talk to you every day. And then with like Ella, she's over almost every day. Like it almost is like because she doesn't have kids, it's easier for her to just pop in and hold
mm.
Clara.
That's a good point too. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't really feel like anyone that I was close to before is who I'm still close to now. Really don't feel like anything changed because I also didn't really have friends that were only friends, say that like I only saw them when we would go out or anything
Mm,
like that. Like all of my friends that I have here are friends that I see all of the time and we do everything together. So it's not like I just have friends in one part of my life. So
yeah.
I really don't feel like any of my friendships changed since like being pregnant or having her.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point too. I had the question down. What do you think about the choice of being child free?
Yeah, so like totally 100% up to whoever is having the baby, what they want to do. Like I don't think people are selfish or anything like weird things people say just because they don't want to have a baby. I think I think that everyone loves babies. Well, for the most part. Like they're just cute and they don't really do
Yeah.
anything. But I think that if you're gonna have a baby, you also need to think about it's not just a baby you're having a human. Like, you're having an awkward 11-year-old and you need to be ready to do that part. You can't just say, "Oh, I just want a baby," because they grow up.
Right. Yeah,
The
that's
babies
true.
can
I
take that
saw
long.
someone because like I said, I do see the child-free like social media a lot. And there was one person who was like, I always didn't want a baby. Like I didn't want like a baby, a 1-year-old, a 2-year-old. She's like, but everything after that I actually did want. So I can do the whole baby thing because then I have like my child and my teenager and my adult child who will be an adult child much longer than they will be a 1 or 2-year-old, right? Which yeah, that makes sense. And what advice would you say to someone who like just found out they were pregnant or is maybe like to Leslie, like she's about to give birth in 1 month? Like, do you have advice for either of those
Yeah.
situations?
So I have three things that people had told me that have really helped me. So one thing was like what we just talked about, like someone saying they don't want a baby. It's not that I didn't want a baby, like I said before. I was just really afraid of having a baby because I had never spent time with them. I was afraid I wouldn't be good at it. And then I heard this advice that said it's okay to not be good at every stage. And I just needed to hear that. And it relieved my anxiety so much because like I know that I'm good with like toddlers, like 3-year-olds. Like I just have experience from coaching them, and I knew that I would be okay from that point. But I was so nervous about not being good at the baby stage that it would like ruin everything. But it doesn't. And honestly, it was easier than I thought. I actually really loved the baby stage.
Yeah, I think there's benefits
Um,
to every age.
yes, definitely. And I think it's normal to be nervous about certain parts. When one thing my mom said when she had me and Jesse was she said to a coworker she was so afraid for us to be teenagers, which I totally understand now. Like I think of like her being a teenager and how scary that is, but her coworker said that you grow with them, like you grow with your babies, and I think that's helpful too. And the other thing I was told was that your experience will be your own, and like people can share their stories, but like don't let them scare you because your experience will be unique. Like I was like, because I was very afraid of birth and I had never talked about it, I really wanted to know like what it was like, and that is it is true. Like even what you think your birth experience will be, your birth plan, whatever, it's not what it's going to be. So, and the last thing that I was told, and it is obvious, but I think people get stressed, is that babies cry. Like sometimes they just cry, and there's nothing you can do, and doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong. They are just literally growing. And yeah, and that's helpful too. And like I don't feel like I get stressed out when she is crying because it's just what it is.
Yeah.
And like as an adult, like if you were crying and someone else started freaking out, it wouldn't help. So
That is so true. That is very true. And yeah, I heard from like my other mom friends that kids really feed off your energy. So even if you're stressed and like projecting that, then they can feel that, and then it's just a bad cycle.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and like even so at first, so she's a really good sleeper, but because we hadn't slept in the hospital, I was so sleep deprived, and so was Landon. And one night, when my mom was here, she was like, I thought you guys were crying last night. And then I realized you guys were just laughing. So that was the other thing, like just being able to find the humor in things. And
Yeah, that's so sweet. So I'm not sure who I'm speaking with next. I have a couple people lined up, but I'm thinking like if there's anything you're wondering about, or maybe like if you could ask yourself a question in the next year, like yourself a year from now, if you could ask yourself a question or advice, what would it be?
I I thought about that question, and I don't know if I'd really want to know anything. Like
Mhm.
every day is so exciting, and not knowing is exciting. One thing is obviously just worry, like, is everything okay? Is she still healthy and
Yeah.
stuff? But besides that, like, I don't really want to know anything.
Yeah, that's
I'm
true.
sure if, like, say, she didn't sleep at all, I'd be like, will she ever sleep again? Will I ever
Yeah.
sleep again? But no, yeah, I couldn't think of anything. Just am enjoying every day.
Yeah. That's how I feel about life anyway. Like I wouldn't I don't think I would ask myself anything too deep.
Yeah, and I just think about like, when we've gone through really hard times, like obviously it'd be nice to know it gets better, but you gotta go through all that stuff first.
That's true.
It's nice not knowing.
Clara, do you have anything to add? She's like,
Mm.
no, I've realized I'm stuck with you too.
I can't wait to meet you when Susan.
Oh, I cannot wait to meet her either. It's going to be so fun to have you home for like a month.
Is there anything that I'm forgetting that you want to talk about? Did I
I don't
already
think
ask you?
so. Any tips for how to deal with mom brain, pregnancy brain?
Apparently not.
Okay, I'm
Um,
not even pregnant or like a mother, but my memory is getting bad as I approach 30. So I literally have like 5 different notes in my phone, in my notes app for like things I need to remember, things I need to do, things I need to buy for my trips in August, things I need to do that I want to do for like Christmas.
That's not you being a Virgo.
That's me. Yeah.
No, I do like the notes too. There's so much you can do. I don't know if it's the same home, but like having to get her birth certificate, all that stuff. Um, but there were so many different steps I had to do, and I had to make notes of that because I was like, there's no way I'm going to remember.
Mhm.
It's also hard, like before, I don't care if I miss a phone call from whatever, I never answer my phone, and like from like doctors or whatever. But now with her, now I have to actually have my phone charged and
Which works out better for me.
yeah, I literally could just stare at her all day.
I know, me too.
And it's
Uh,
also very funny, like we said, like, it takes babies a while to start smiling. But it was this big joke at the gym, like, imagine Landon's baby isn't a smiley baby. And she's not. Like the way that I like do this with my eyebrows, like put them together, she
yeah.
does that.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
It's so funny, like little mannerisms. Like I know Jordan does this thing when she's like, if you tell her no, and she does like her nose like flares and she like scrunches up her nose, which is so funny because when she was a baby, her nose is all scrunched up and like she gets this little line right here. It's funny.
cute.
But no, I think that was all. I think it's helpful for people, obviously, to hear advice from things that they might be going through. So thanks for
Yeah.
sharing.
And if anyone, like any new moms or anybody who's about to have babies, if they ever want to message me, I am here to talk. Like I said, everyone's situation is unique, but I just think it's so important to have people that support you. And I do think about that often. Like I'm very grateful to have such a good village spread out everywhere,
Yeah.
not just here. So important to have people.
Yeah, that's true. Well, you're doing a great job.
Oh, thank you.
Can't wait to see you.
Can't wait to see you.
Love you.
Love you.
Thanks again to Sarah and everyone listening. Please recommend this to not only your new mom friends or pregnant friends, but their partners and their friends and family. I think it can be really helpful for everyone to know what they might be experiencing. I want to give a bit of a backstory for anyone who might not have been following this podcast, as I did start it over 2 years ago now. And like I said in the beginning, we're now over 25 episodes. This is actually the 26th episode. And it all started from my friends encouraging me to do a blog and turning it into a podcast. And when I did that, it was with the intent to talk about cool people in Newfoundland doing cool things. And it still will be a lot of the time, I'm sure, but I realized there's a lot of opportunities to branch out and hear from even more people. And I would just really like to be a voice of advice and have my guests be that as well, to share advice in the same way that I was lucky enough to be given as a young teenager or young adult, and maybe even being given advice in the ways that I wish I had some wisdom passed down. And trust me, I do not have all the answers, and I'm sure my opinions are going to change. But that's the cool thing about being in your 20s is you have a bit of experience to have an opinion on some things, but you're still kind of testing out a lot of things in other ways. So yeah, if you've been listening this far, thank you. And if you're new here, I would say to go back and check out some old episodes. A lot of it is good friends of mine who are doing cool things or have been through cool things and maybe not cool things. We go into a lot of pretty deep topics too on some episodes, but it's all being shared by some really cool people. So I would tell everyone to go back and listen to some older episodes too. And again, I love all feedback or ideas, and you can always send me a message. You can find me at Newfound Happy Hour on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. And stay tuned for the next episode of this Mother's Day series with my friend Haley as she talks about her life as a mom of a 1-year-old. Have a good weekend, everyone.